JJ McCarthy came in today with a little bit of right knee soreness. It was something, obviously he finished the game, threw a touchdown on his last pass, but out of precaution, we're going to, continue an evaluation. So we want to make sure we're smart about before he participates, making sure we, have a good understanding of where he's at.
We've got some breaking and unfortunate news out of Minnesota regarding rookie quarterback JJ McCarthy. In last weekend's preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders, he did suffer a torn meniscus in his right knee, according to Kevin O'Connell. And at this point, there is not an exact timeline with this injury because of the two surgery options that he could get. He'll either get a meniscus trim or a full repair, and doctors will not know which exact one to give him until they actually open up his knee and begin the operation. If it is just a trim, it could be a couple of weeks before McCarthy is back, but if it is a full repair, he could miss up to 5 months and maybe the entire of his rookie season. This is the same injury that Jalen Ramsey, the cornerback for the Miami Dolphins, had last season. He suffered it, I think, in late July, a couple of weeks before McCarthy suffered his, but he ended up missing 8 weeks with his injury, and that was seen as like a very fast recovery time. So if doctors do decide that McCarthy does need the full repair, expectations should be tempered, and he probably will be out for at least until mid-November, early December. And this is not completely out of left field. We did hear over the weekend that McCarthy said he had some soreness in his knee, but it was not seen as anything serious, maybe like a bone bruise or something like that. But after continuing to complain about his soreness, he had an MRI on Monday night, and it revealed very unfortunate news. What does this mean for the Minnesota Vikings? Well, Sam Darnold, he definitely is going to be the week 1 starter now and definitely play at least majority of the first half of the season. And I think for many people, especially in the Vikings organization, that was always the plan. Sam Darnold was going to start early in the season, and once they did feel McCarthy was ready to take over the reins, or the Vikings were not performing well in terms of team record, then he would take over and finish off the season for the team. But some people in the media have been generating a lot of hype behind McCarthy in the last couple of weeks due to how he's been performing in training camp and even his last preseason game against the Raiders. He's looked really impressive, and against Las Vegas, he was 11 for 17, 188 yards and 2 touchdowns. And in about his 2 quarters that he played in that game, he showed a lot of his traits that he showed at Michigan and why he was a first-round pick. His mobility, he picked up a couple of first downs with his legs. He also maneuvered the pocket fairly well, stepping up and ripping some passes over the middle of the field, making some defenders miss, extending some plays, and also his arm talent. He threw some passes down the field, a couple of them on the sideline right to the chest plate of the wide receiver. I mean, it was some fairly nice throws. So some people were like, hey, maybe McCarthy has a real chance to start week number 1. Maybe that is the right play for the Vikings as an organization. But now, in just a snap of the fingers, that is no longer going to be a possibility. And it also means that McCarthy's preseason action is over for this season as well. And for a rookie that was not going to be playing the majority of this season in the first place, it does suck that he's going to miss out on 2 in-game action reps. And to take it a step further, another subplot in this story is that McCarthy's not going to be able to be on the field now practicing. He'll be able to be in the building and taking mental reps and also just learning the playbook even more. But in terms of actually being on the field, throwing with Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison, building some chemistry, continuing to work on his mechanics, he's not going to be able to do that now. And I do wonder if that could impact his development as just a rookie this season. And this is also the first major injury that McCarthy has had in his entire career. You back to high school, his only injury was a broken thumb. And then college, the only documented injury that he had was last season with a sprained ankle. So he's had no major surgery. So this is going to be new territory for him as well. I think that shows you just how unfortunate this injury was. And in his first ever NFL action, having no prior injury concerns or history, that he gets banged up in a pretty meaningless game in the grand scheme of things. JJ did go to Twitter and tweeted out, "Love you, Viking Nation. I'll be back in no time. Amar Fatih." I didn't know what those last 2 words meant, so I looked it up and it said love one's fate. So it is nice to see him in high spirits despite suffering the setback. So you just hate this for him, especially with how he's been performing the last couple of weeks, really showing a lot of promise, and now he's not going to be able to be on the field. We got some more information from head coach Kevin O'Connell. Said as far as the timeline of the injury, that will be something determined during the procedure based upon whether it can be just a cleanup or potentially a repair. He continued and said, "I credit JJ for obviously being able to continue to play. He did not come out of the game from that injury and finished his night with his 2nd touchdown pass. At that point, he kind of had reached the snap count I was hoping to get him through the game, and at that point was taken out, but at no time did he think it was something that would be something to take him out of the football game and not allow him to play." He continued and said, "I had a very clear-cut plan and was going to continue through that with JJ on the field, getting more and more reps and obviously coming off a performance like he had where we felt strongly about where he was at it in his development process. You heard from him in the short term here because he had such a daily process, focus, all those things that I was really looking for in a young player at the position. First and foremost, we'll get this procedure done, make sure that we're doing the right things for him to have the best possible recovery when that takes place. And as he stated, we're not going to know which surgery McCarthy gets until after it's completed, and it has not been announced when he's expected to have that surgery done. Usually you have to wait a couple of days for the knee to stop swelling down, so I'm just going to assume sometime this weekend we will get a report that comes out and says how long he is going to be sidelined. And I know Viking fans are very upset right now, and they do have the right to be. I mean, your rookie quarterback just suffered a pretty serious injury, but the silver lining in this is that he's not going to be rushed now. He does have the chance to just continue to grow and develop on the sideline for at least the majority of this rookie season. I know with how well he's been performing, a lot of people just wanted to see him play right away. I do understand that excitement of just wanting to see a rookie quarterback hop into action and really just take over as the team's starting quarterback, but this could end up being a blessing in disguise for McCarthy in the long term of his career. He was always seen as a relatively raw prospect who had a lot of really nice traits and a very high ceiling, but he was going to need some coaching and some time to really master his game. So this injury eliminates any pressure for him to be pushed into action, and whether it's later in 2024 or even next year, McCarthy will be back, and I do think this time could be valuable for him to continue to learn this offense, become a better leader, and also just learn how to be a pro day in and day out. So with Sam Darnold starting, Jaren Hall and Nick Mullins become the backup quarterbacks. They were battling out for the third quarterback position behind Darnold and McCarthy, but now if McCarthy does go on injury reserve, they theoretically could both make the roster. And we did see Jaren Hall and Mullins start games for the Vikings last season, and it was not pretty. So I do understand really not wanting to see those guys shoot up again. So hopefully Sam Darnold can play well and stay healthy, because at least he's proven to be a serviceable quarterback who can move the chains and at least just be a functional player. But it has been like a rough year or so for Minnesota in terms of injuries. Kirk Cousins and his Achilles, Justin Jefferson missed a ton of time with his hamstring, TJ Hawkinson tearing his ACL. At least Jefferson is back, and Hawkinson is making his way back and should be ready for some time early in the season. But this is definitely very frustrating and awful news. I'm just hoping that McCarthy can have the fast recovery time. Hopefully he will only need the trim, and then he'll be back in just a handful of weeks. Spend the next month in the quarterback room just continuing to learn and improve, and then really ramp up the process of him getting on the field and practicing as we get to the midseason point. The Vikings have a week 6 bye week, and I did identify that as maybe the perfect time for McCarthy to get the reins even before this injury. If it is going to be a trim and around a 5-week recovery time, week 7 is still a realistic timeline for McCarthy to step in and become the starter. That gives him enough time to rehab and get back to 100%, and then also have a couple of weeks to continue to just get some first team reps under his belt. But obviously that takes into account 2 factors: 1, it being the trim and not a major meniscus surgery, and 2, Sam Darnold not performing well, or the Vikings just really wanting to see the rookie quarterback play. But fingers crossed it will be the quick recovery time, and we will get to see McCarthy in some game action in 2024. But I want to know what you think about JJ and the Vikings, and what do you think this does for his development his rookie season? Do you worry this could hinder his development, or do you just think it's a minor setback? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But subscribe to the channel if you are new, drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in my next one.